Here.
Shelley?
Here. Forget about all this. Here and here.
Donna?
Here.
Will?
Here.
And, let's see, who's absent today? Laura is absent and,
Todd?
Todd. So we have a quorum and the meeting will proceed. So, let's look at approval of the agenda, which is, before you. Sorry. Any comments on the agenda?
I'd like to amend the agenda to add, to talk about the budget.
You got a second?
Second.
All right. Anybody opposed? The agenda's amended. Let's see, talk about the budget. Let's do that. Can we do that at 27 and 8?
Sure.
Like that's 7A. Okay.
I would like to amend the agenda to discuss staffing.
Okay.
I'd like to.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, second, yeah.
All right. Any opposed? All right. 7B then, if nobody has any objections to that.
And I'd like to amend the agenda to discuss the trolley.
All right. So, any second to that amendment?
Second.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. All right, 7A, B, and C. Is there anybody else? Shelley, you got anything on your mind?
I do not. Since I've been
Okay.
absent, I'll be trying to catch up.
All right.
So I appreciate it.
Okay, and I have nothing to add. Now, okay, I guess we revisit approval of the agenda. I got a little lost there. Anybody, with
Second.
the amendments, you okay?
Yeah.
Proof, or
Second to approve.
motion, second. And your second without a motion.
I motion.
I'll second.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Approval of the previous meeting's minutes. They're in front of you there. Does anybody have any comments on the previous minutes or would like to make suggested changes or acceptance of it or
I'll make a motion to accept it.
a second?
A second.
Anybody opposed? Previous minutes passed unanimously. And now we're up to number 4 for the interim director's report, which today is going to be given by Mrs. Deborah Morgan.
There we go. Can you guys hear me now? Mm-hmm. Okay. My name's Deborah Morgan, and I'm the administrative assistant with the tourism department. And I am filling in for Danny Gift today, and I'll be sharing the interim director's report. So the first thing on her report is the visitor information. At the Berea Welcome Center, our visitor count for March 2025, we had 881 visitors and 95 phone calls. That's in comparison to March 2024, where we had 1,181 visitors and 117 phone calls. So that was down just a little. And February 2025, we had 553 visitors and 109 phone calls, and that was almost the same as February 2024 with 555 visitors and 109 phone calls. I don't remember the number right off the top of my head, but not this past Saturday when we had all the rain, but the Saturday before that, the part-time staff said we had like 130 some visitors. It was like a record day. They were busy all day. And that was the first like really nice Saturday we've had in a while. Some Welcome Center news. Around the next week or so, we're going to be having an Easter egg hunt. We have some really large Easter eggs that someone is going to be planting around town, and the goal is for tourists, people in the Berea community alike, to motivate visitors to move around town, to complete tasks that are going to be written inside the Easter egg. And when they complete that task, it might be take a picture next to the library, or take a photo next to Native Bagels, or a drink showing you've purchased something at Native Bagels. I'm not sure what all the tasks are going to be, but the task will be completed. They'll have to bring picture proof of some sort to the Welcome Center to receive a prize, and we have gift bags already made up for those winners of the Easter egg hunt. And the goal is just to get people to explore town, to explore different places in town. National Reading Month just ended. We had one of our part-time staffers, Sierra, created some suitcases with all the places you could go in Berea, and children who came in and visited with their families were able to do that if they would like. The Berea Gallery work continues. That is the call out to local artists to bring in their work to have on display and sell. And that was formerly going to be at the Corner Exchange. Now it's in the Welcome Center, and we're calling it the Berea Gallery. And right now we have several pieces displayed. The staff has been working on putting name tags of the artists, the title of their work, and the price, and their contact information. And the word's starting to get around because we're starting to see people come in and say, "Hey, I hear you have some art for sale. We want to take a look at it." And our hope is that that project will expand, and then when the gallery and event center opens, we can continue to display some up there as well. On the back is a swag order that Danny had been working on. These are just some ideas of swag that she hopes to order in the next little bit for visitors who come in at the Welcome Center. There's little magnet chip clips, sunglasses, temporary tattoos, and little cups. So those are some swag ideas that are attached. For Section 3, our beautification, maintenance, and building usage, we've been pricing flowers around local greenhouses. Potting Shed hasn't, I think they're just now kind of getting open this week. I wasn't able to reach them last week, but I've been in contact with Williams Greenhouse and a couple of other greenhouses, and we're comparing prices. Looks like we're probably going to go with Williams and visit them next week and start getting some orders placed for flowers to be planted. And instead of planting the individual flowers this year, we're looking at planting the more larger, like that will go in a basket, so it will fill up the planters, earlier. And then we've had staff just kind of assessing storm damage around the gathering space and the Welcome Center and the gallery and event center, just seeing what storm damage we have. Stan had noticed some of the awning at the gathering space, for example, the steel cord was loose, so we contacted Jesse from Public Works, and he contacted Roy, and we got that in place to have that repaired. And on the next page, number 4 is Learn Shops. Spring Learn Shops are coming up in a couple of weeks. Those are April 25th through the 27th. So far we have 21 classes scheduled. 57 tickets have been sold so far, and so far we have 2 classes that are sold out completely. The most popular classes, the ones that are sold out, is glass blowing, pyrography, and grapevine wreaths are the most popular classes so far. We're currently assigning class locations and booking classes for the Festival of Learn Shops, which will take place in July. The first 15 July classes are confirmed, which will include glass blowing, broom making, fabric dyeing, rug hooking, stained glass, and a new class all about building your own telescope. And I believe we're working with the Berea College Science Department with that one. Number 5 is L&N Day and Juneteenth celebration. Those are both going to be held on June 14th. We're continuing to secure vendors for L&N Day. We have permits have been applied for through the Berea Police Department. Marketing will begin around April 14th, which is next week. I know we met with Will Gover from the Volunteer Fire Department and discussed the car show and getting some other things done. The porta toilets have been ordered and secured, so we will have those facilities in line. Number 6, the Pavilion concerts. All concerts for the Concert Pavilion series have been booked. They're ready to go. All contracts have been signed. Band announcements will start this week. Just last week, I put on the event calendar all of the artists who are coming for the Concert Pavilion series. So those are all on there from starting May 17th through October. Something a little different we're doing this year, we're going to have an acoustic night with 3 different acoustic acts, and we're also going to have a children's night. So we have a rock and roll duo from Louisville, Kentucky, and they're pretty good. They are on the electric guitar and the drums, and then we have a local gal who's going to be singing as well. So posters and flyers will continue to we'll display those as the concerts get closer. Number 7 is the Berea Craft Festival. So far, we have 112 spots full. That is returning and new artists. We have a wait list going on in case any of those, change their plans. We have about 10 or so artists on the wait list. We've collected $18,200 so far in jury fees and booth deposits. The total booth revenue is anticipated to be about $33,600, and last year it was $31,800. The mapping of all of the booth locations will begin the first week of May. And additional news, the Farmers Market has officially moved back to the Chestnut Street Pavilion. Last Saturday, even though it was a rainy, dreary day, was the first day that they were back there. And from what I heard, they had a huge crowd in attendance. I talked to Renee from the Farmers Market, and she said they had a really successful day. So, any questions about the interim director's report? I'll try my best to answer them.
Any questions?
So the Easter egg thing, how are people finding out about that?
It's going to be posted on social media. Yeah.
Okay. And then what's the update on the Corner Exchange if artwork's not going down there?
Well, the artwork that was going to go into the Corner Exchange, which is now Lindsay Gallery in the old hotel building. So
Okay.
Bob Mattingly moved into the old hotel building. So it's no longer the Corner Exchange. It's now Lindsay Gallery. And we're calling it the Berea Gallery for right now. And that artwork is being displayed in the Welcome Center. And we have, I'd say, close to 25 to 30 pieces displayed so far from local artists, and almost all of them have the tags with their contact information and the price. And then we're hoping to expand it to the gallery and event center when that opens. So, but the word has been spreading because we've had people come in and say, "Hey, we hear you have some art for sale." So, the word's kind of getting around.
Did you say when the concerts start?
May 17th is the first one. Yes. And I believe that artist is Mirage, is the name of the band. Mirage. They perform a lot in Danville, Lexington, Louisville. I was kind of doing a little Facebook investigating, seeing where all they've been recently.
Outside of the cable that was at the pavilion, is there any other damage that you're aware of?
Ted Kinson was the one who went up on Monday to kind of check after this past weekend storms. Really, the cable was the main thing. There was a wobbly toilet also in the men's room, but that wasn't from storm damage.
Yeah.
But Jesse was going to get that taken care of too.
How's it work on selling the artists? They price it and then it all goes to them, or are you taking a fee for overhead, or what's going on?
As far as I know, it all goes to them. We're not charging them a fee to display their work. They sign a contract that our attorney drafted, and it just states the regulations of having their art displayed, in our locations. But
Who chooses who gets in and who gets out?
so far, we really haven't said no to anybody. I mean, it's kind of an open market. I guess if it becomes, bigger, we would have to start making some guidelines about that. But so far, we've just been accepting all work that's been brought in.
All right, on the Pavilion concerts, you had 65 applications. What's the process for,
I don't know the exact number. I don't have
well, it
that in
says
the
over
report.
65 or something.
Okay.
But it don't matter what the number is.
Yeah.
What's the process by determining which ones get chosen to do that? I mean,
Staff at tourism listens to the different acts, and we kind of explore, see where they performed, what kind of crowd we anticipate they would bring in, and things like that. Tried to do a variety of different genres of music too. So we have some country, we have some bluegrass, we have some rock, we have a little variety.
any other questions? For- Any questions for Deborah? Well, Deborah, thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. Well,
Appreciate that.
now you're stuck with listening to me again, because I'm also going to share the media report.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure. Usually I'm busy taking notes, so I'm not quite sure how Danny goes over the chart. But the chart is there in front of you with our total reach of Facebook for January, February, and March. The numbers in parentheses reflect the previous year. So, for example, March, the most recent total reach, looks like it was 1,151,680. And we are starting to do some RPM paid ads and boosted posts on Facebook. So I think that's a huge increase in that number. Engagement, 4,218 people. The links were clicked 2,486 times, and new followers were 181. So that's March. I can go over February and January if you would like, but right now I'll just stick with the most current month unless you have other questions about that. With Instagram, total impressions, we had in March 21,385, accounts reached 9,275, profile taps 438, and new follows 48. I know nothing about Instagram, so I'm not sure what any of those mean. So if you have any questions, I'll call on Emily or someone to help me out with that, because I am not an Instagram follower. And then Constant Contact, that's our newsletter software. March, we had 39% open rate. Click rate was 3%. New subscribers, 44. And total subscriptions, 16,210. And Danny has a note here that it was a small dip, but still above the industry average. So digital media projects that have been completed. The March newsletter, we featured 22 events. The April newsletter featured 36 events. April was a very busy month in Berea. The Bluegrass Road Trip Travel Guide, we had a 3-page article, ad, and calendar series in that. The Learn Shop email blast, links to every class listing. So we sent out an email blast, and it had links that people could directly click on and lead them to Eventbrite to book those classes. Some ongoing digital media projects. We have a partnership with Berea College marketing students. Over the last couple of weeks, some of the Berea College students' marketing videos and pictures were posted on our social media, creating video and photo posts for Facebook and Instagram. Students are learning how to assess a client's needs and create a campaign plan to meet the needs. The full project ends in May, and I think it's been an eye-opening experience for some of the college students to get feedback from the public, like we see every day, that they don't always see, like, oh, we like that, or, oh, we don't like that. I'm continuing to add events to the online calendar, and we are doing boosted ads for our Learn Shops. Print projects that have been completed: the Kentucky Living ad, the Group Tour Magazine ad and article, Southsider Magazine, and Blue Ridge Outdoor. And our additional upcoming projects, the Easter egg hunt around town, just a little bit more about that. Each egg will hold a note with a task for the finder. For example, bring a local restaurant receipt, take a photo with a public art piece, etc. The finder will complete the task and bring proof to the Welcome Center for a prize back, including a magnet from the Cabin of Old Town, a small print of Jan Gaddis's from Maddox Made, some tourism swag, and candy. We're going to have 12 big eggs in total around town. We've been meeting with Right Place Media, meeting with them again at the end of April to discuss the next budget year, begin the discussion of moving to primarily digital and away from as much print. We're also continuing to work on L&N Day signage and print advertisements and a new billboard design. Danny has been working on that. It was taken out by a storm. So we haven't been charged for that billboard, but one was taken, as far as I've been in the tourism office, we've not been paying for that because it was taken out from a storm prior to that. But she is working on a new design and will have the opportunity to redesign it at no additional cost. And she just has a reminder on here that if anyone has an event they would like to be shared, please direct them to the Submit Event tab on the website. And that's been going pretty well. We've had lots of events submitted for April. Are there any questions?
I do on the billboard design.
Okay.
Statement. We'd like to see that before it
Okay.
is agreed to.
Okay. I'll
All right.
pass that along.
Thank you.
Also, there was, from what I understand, there was no confirmation of the old one going up. I don't know. You said it got destroyed by a storm.
I'm not sure when that
Yeah, I know
storm
you probably don't have that
happened.
information, but-
I can't remember the name of our billboard company off the top of my head, and I do the payment request form each month. But I know on there, there's a charge for 2 billboards, and one, there's no charge for that one, and it said due to storm damage.
One's north and one's south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen them. Guess I need to do some more driving.
Any more questions? Thank you, Deborah.
All right. Thank you.
Emily, would you like to give us our group tour planner report?
Good afternoon. So tour season is back in full swing, as we all know. As I was driving over here, I saw a bus parked at Boone Tavern. I did not help plan that one, so they must just be here for the evening. But this past Sunday, we had a visit from a frequent flyer of Berea, the Colette. I'm sure you've heard me say their name before. And so they came for their usual midday stop for artist demonstrations, time to shop in the Artisan Village, and then on to the Artisan Center for lunch. However, this time around, they did add an aspect to that tour, and we did a driving tour of Berea to learn a little bit about the Berea history, and they really loved that. It just adds a little extra to their short time in Berea. So they enjoyed that, and I believe that they're going to continue to stick with that aspect as well. On Sunday, they saw demonstrations from Tim Wade, the wood craftsman in Old Town, Bob Mattingly, the jeweler. He got to use, the hotel space where his new location at the corner there, and that was really nice as it was a rainy and chilly day. And in the past, he would have to demonstrate out on his porch, and as we can all assume, with an elderly crowd, they tend to get a little chilly sooner. And then also it's difficult to stand and not have any seating, and that's how his setup worked before. But now, where he has that bigger space in the back of the hotel, we're able to provide chairs for anyone who wants to sit down, and it's it's climate controlled, so they were able to stay warm and enjoy the demonstrations provided by him. And they also really loved that aspect, or at least the tour guide that has been here before. He said, "Oh yes, this is new. This is great that they're able to come inside now." So that's a positive. And then the other demonstrator was Mary Colmer, the woman who owns Weaver's Bottom Craft Studio. That purple building down there in Old Town. If you don't know Mary, I'm sure we all do. She loves playing her hammered dulcimer and singing to the groups, and they just absolutely fall in love with that. And then she'll move over to her weaving loom and show them how that works. And every time I step in when she has a group, they have a million questions for her, and they're always so engaged. And as you know, Mary is also very engaging and has so many stories. So they loved seeing her. And even though they added the aspect of the driving tour, they still did have time to, freely walk around in Old Town and shop. Sundays, as we all know, in a small town can be a little quiet. But in Old Town, there are still some shops who will come in. If they know that we're having a tour, they'll open up just specifically for that group. And then we also have Top Drawer Gallery. They've changed their hours. They used to not be open on Sundays at all unless a group was coming in, then they'd open. But now on Sundays they're open from 12 to 4. So that adds a little bit more lively aspect down in Old Town, and the groups really enjoyed going in there, shop to see what they had. I saw many gift baggies as they were leaving. So, and then in the future for April, we have one next week, and they are from the University of Kentucky, the faculty. They're coming on a bus, and they're going to be doing demonstrations with the glass blower and Tim and Bob as well. And they're hoping to see one of our potters. We're still kind of working that out, though, because the space we were going to use was the corner exchange, but now that the corner exchange is occupied, we might have to rework that on where to put the potter if they would still like to. We're thinking maybe inside of the Welcome Center, although with pottery, as we can all assume, that gets a little messy, and with it being an older building, we're still weighing those options. So we're talking about that. But they'll still have plenty of demonstrations to view. And then they'll have lunch with Mr. Bill West at his business. And then in mid-April, late April, we have a high school group. They're staying the night from the 25th to the 26th. I believe that's Friday into a Saturday. And so they'll be going out to the outreach center, maybe hike the Pinnacles a little bit, and then have lunch somewhere in town, although they have not decided on where they're having lunch yet, because it is a smaller group. It's only a group of like 25 high school students on that bus. So, and then on April 27th, we have Colette coming again, and Colette always comes on a Sunday, so they know what to expect, but they'll be doing their same of artist demonstrations, free time to shop in that area, and then they're going to add the driving history tour and then lunch at the Artisan Center. Last year in April, we had 3 motor coaches come through, and then a couple of school field trips. And as you can see here, we have 2 motor coaches and 1 school trip. This year's school trips mostly have been pushed to May and June, where the school year has been extended due to the winter storms and now the floods. It's been extended even more. So we'll see a lot of high school groups come next month and then in June as well. Any questions?
I do. In your viewpoint, the sort of the economic uncertainty that's going on now, how do you feel like that's going to affect what are you seeing with your tours, talking to them? And
I've not had any cancellations so far. I will say this time last year, we were really, at this point last year, I was booking a lot more towards the end of the year for groups to come in, and I've not seen that up spike yet. And so talking with like Colette, the lady who plans their tours, Candy Ramos is her name, that is a concern that at least they're having with the political unrest, and not just America, but the world, and prices going up. Some people are a little bit more, protective of their money and maybe don't want to vacation as much or go on tours. But I've not seen any cancellations, and I'm still booking a few tours, just not as much as I was at this time last year. So maybe we'll see. It does feel like, though, this year everything has been a little bit delayed. Like whenever she was giving the director's report, you could see that some of our phone calls and visitors kind of dropped. So it seems like everything's delayed, but just the next month we had so many people coming in. So it does seem a bit of an unpredictable year.
well, what do you think we should do different this year and next year compared to last year?
In booking like tours and just bringing more people in.
I mean, are we doing more of the same, or do we have a way to? We should always do more of the same,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But is there, is there any thoughts around?
I mean, we are doing a lot of the same. I'm still reaching out to the normal groups that I've always been in contact with since beginning with tourism. I am now helping, and I've talked about this before, but like with the motorcycle group, we have a motorcycle group that's coming in May, and so they're not wanting. What they came to me for is not necessarily any tour aspect, as motorcyclists are typically not wanting to get off their bikes, they're wanting to drive, but they just wanted to reach out to figure out what to do in town. So that talking with them opened up more doors to other groups that might come in. So there's another there's an RV club that's coming, and they're staying at the KOA in Mount Vernon, but they're wanting to come up to Berea a lot. So that's something new that I'm, trying, is reaching out to those clubs, those groups, to bring more people in. And that's something that at least I did not do last year.
I'm very supportive of the group efforts. I think there's a lot of potential in there's all sorts of clubs and associations and groups, and I think there's loads of potential there.
Yeah.
I think we fit their needs pretty good.
Yeah, definitely for, at least for those motorcyclists driving through our town, just weekend trips like that, or the RV, the campers. Hopefully next year we can get them up to Will's location.
Just things like lodging, our lodging meets those head counts, where it won't meet convention head counts, it'll meet group association head counts. So, we got room for them
Yes.
and lots of things for them to do. So I think it's a good place for us to concentrate on. And maybe you're not the one, Emily, I'm not trying to put you on a spot, going back to Deborah or some, but what's going on in the hotel now? It sounds like the plans changed there from the
Yeah.
last time something was presented to us.
Yeah, so I'm not too sure how much I should share in regards to the barn, but there was a family tragedy that happened not in the barn, but in relation to who owns the honeysuckle vine. So they're liquidating their assets and everything, and so with that side of the building closed down, it slowed foot traffic for the other side. And so with that corner exchange being open, so Lindsay Gallery moved over to the corner exchange. So we were going to use the corner exchange for classroom space and, the art hanging up on the walls. But with the Lindsay Gallery moving over there, that location is no longer an option. But the barn is still being looked at, but we can't really look too much farther into that until everything with that business is figured out and solved. But we are looking into, other options with the barn. But for now, as Deborah stated, all the artwork that was going to be hung up in the corner exchange has now moved into the Welcome Center. So we have not lost that aspect. And as soon as the Berea Gallery and Event Space opens up, we'll still have classroom space for Learn Shops, which was another purpose of the corner exchange. But as far as like pop-up shops and stuff that we were going to use there, I'm not quite sure. That's, still up in the air and in works talking.
So you're saying that the barn is privately owned?
No, the barn itself is city-owned.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just the business inside of the barn.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So eventually someone or y'all will be looking to fulfill that?
Yeah, yeah.
You mentioned the Saturday, Sunday activities. What's our current policy on staffing our offices there on Saturdays and Sundays right now? Or does anybody?
At the Welcome Center. So the Welcome Center will open back up on Sundays after Easter. So at the end of this month, so the 27th, when Colette comes the second time, it will be open again.
What hours are open for that?
It'll be our normal hours, 9 to 5. As of right now, though, Sundays are closed. Saturdays are always open, but Sundays are closed for the winter up until Easter. And so that was not really an issue that we ran into last Sunday, but the Welcome Center was closed. However, I was there, to see everything, and all the doors, all the important doors were shut and locked. And so most people didn't go in there anyway. We just had a couple that needed to use the restroom on that day. And typically for Colette, that's kind of how it goes anyway, just because they're so excited to see the demonstrations and get out and shop. So it ended up working out.
Okay.
Any
Any
more
other-
questions? Anybody? Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Public comments. We got one person in public. Bruce, you got any comments? Oh, okay.
That situation is at the Honeysuckle Vine itself. The business was owned by Dinah Tyree. I don't think the family would mind talking about Dinah, passed some time ago. She still has a lot of stock, and they typically would close during the winter anyway. And they're in the process of that estate. So we're trying to be real patient with the family, with Linda, who's been basically running it for several years, Linda Wagers, and hopeful that we can help them and help them facilitate kind of closing the stock out. With that space being closed, Bob would tell you that a lot of his business came from people that would come into the Honeysuckle Vine. So where he was stuck on the side there, his business, he saw his foot traffic really slowing down and felt like a move into the hotel building on the side closest to Broadway would be good for his business. He actually approached us about that, and we thought that it made sense. And the corner exchange was designed just for that, for pop-up, to make sure we were making some use of that space. But from my perspective, at least, it's better to have a full-time business owner and a full-time person that we can rely on to demonstrate and to show his craft in that corner, as opposed to maybe just having displays there and nobody in it. So he'll be open. He's opened up. I would encourage you to go down and see Bob, all of you, if you can, see his new space. I stopped by there. What day was that? Monday. I stopped down just to see. They're still getting things situated. But that space is really nice. It's the bigger of the two spaces in the hotel building, and he needed all that space, and I think he'll do very well with it. So there's already an executed lease with Lindsay Gallery and Bob. So I'd encourage you to go down, see him, support him, send friends and neighbors and visitors, Donna and Will. Send your visitors down to see Bob, and they do good work. So that's just a little detail. And Emily was exactly right. You did a really good job, by the way, filling in on some of these things. The barn itself I think it's about 40 years old, but it is owned by the city now. All improvements to that property over that period of time, 40 plus years in the lease, show that any of those improvements could be made, but they would become the property of the city when those leases or any extensions expired. The last extension did expire at the end of February. So, in talking with Sean about it a little bit, and you guys can go by and take a look at the building. The building's a good building, but it's made like a barn, and even if you got a barn, kind of on the bottom, you get some rot where there's water and that kind of thing. So we really need to look at what needs to be done to that to make sure it's a viable building going forward. I was in the space with Linda same day, Monday, I suppose, and kind of reminiscing a little bit about all the artists that have been in there, Jimmy Lou and Lindsay and whatnot. And, the space still looks good inside. It has that rustic look, and that may be desirable to people. But I think that's something that we're going to have to look at, the Tourism Commission as a whole, the tourism staff, Sean in particular. We're going to have to look at that space over the next year or so to see how it can best be used. But one of the other things that we felt like was that where we were going to do the pop-up shops and maybe have demonstration and that kind of thing in the hotel building, it could be done in the barn building. I call it the barn for lack of a better term, the former Honeysuckle space in time, but also as to staff's point, with the opening of the Welcome Center and the Gallery and Event Center. That's the perfect place to demonstrate that, where people will be able to see it more often. More people will be able to see the work and hopefully help some of our small business people and crafts people out with sales. So that's just a little bit more information. And they did a really good job covering it, but just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
It's my only comment.
All right.
All right.
That closes public comments. 7A, budget items. I believe this was you, and you had some thoughts you wanted to share around the budget.
I know we're getting into budget season. There's a few things that had looked over, and we've discussed as a tourism with advertising. With RPM, we pretty much pay them a lot of money, and we're leaning towards possibly doing a bit more in-house. And so with that, I was hoping to make a motion to move some money out of advertising to move it into the grant awards and utilize that as more of an advertising and way for our community to host more events and get more involved with tourism's funds. And so,
Anybody, any comments?
any suggestions?
I think that'd be good to kind of build with the public and give that avenue to maybe get some new programs going in the city. So I think that'd be great. And it was quite remarkable, just like on the Facebook, like shared stuff, just how much we're getting from that. Like I said, it's pretty impressive numbers for no more than it costs to just them sponsored ads and stuff.
So just for clarification, yeah, I certainly don't have no notes or anything in front of me, but our advertising budget is X, I think $300,000, and
Roughly.
that has billboards and social media and
Yeah, I
different
believe
things. I think
150
150
of it is RPM.
Goes outside to consultants.
Yeah, to outside consultants. And Danny and them did have an example of an in-house example, and $20 increased exposure by 175%. So I don't know if it would be good to learn some of those skills in-house to utilize our funds better and also allow for more public or more local engagement through activities. And it's a bit hard to find that information. I know-
So specifically, you're proposing when we go into our budget work session that we look at moving X amount out of
Advertising.
out of that, not of advertising per se, but particularly out of,
Specific to RPM.
so you would leave the, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
So we'd leave the billboards
Complete
and
noise, yeah.
all that like it was.
So
I
that
think
would
personally
still-
think the billboards are very important. We just
Yeah.
got two, north and
The-
south. We're on the main north-south media of the world. You know, I mean, we gotta have those billboards, I think.
Yeah, and none of this takes outside of any project other than RPM. RPM has access to print media as well as digital, and I know they give us digital feedback, but we don't have a way to track that print.
And maybe the person isn't here today, but didn't we have a pretty good chunk of that go to, was it Fox News? There was like 150 and a 50 and then 100 for everything else.
I think Fox was a lot of the ARPA grants.
It was
Yeah,
ARPA grant, okay.
it was separate. I know RPM's was different than the Fox, but that all was included. And so my suggestion would be to, if we're already thinking about condensing with RPM, keep that, but just shift it over to a more local way of advertising.
The gentleman from Top Drawer Gallery came to visit me, and he had a really good idea, and I wonder, would some of this money be able to help him with printing? He's wanting to print something up for me to give out to the guests that has a code on it to show directions to his business. He's kind of drowning down there.
Yeah, I mean,
But we,
that's the whole grant thing. I think
Okay.
we need to
Well,
discuss
I'll
about
look
the
at
grant
that.
awards in general, just because
yeah.
how are people getting that? What's matched? What can it be used for? You know, even as a business owner myself, I couldn't tell you any sort of speculation or
Well,
whatever that word is.
The grant awards we've been doing have been limited to, just definition of the past a little bit before we talk about the future, has been limited to $1,500, matching.
I don't think he planned on spending that much money, but he.
Yeah, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, you know, matching,
great.
you know, and it's for advertising for certain things. And it's, to Will's point, and I think your point too, it's so maybe boxed in too tight for the times we're in. And we should maybe look at the definition, not just the amount, but the definition of how we use that to support the more local tourist-related industry, you know. And I think that's what, again, putting words in Alex's mouth, but what I hear when he's talking is he wants to figure out ways to help to achieve what we're supposed to achieve as tourism, but to work with the local merchants to do that.
Almost allow
Yeah.
for more responsibility for them,
So,
through them.
and so I think one of the things we'd have to do that is we'd have to revisit the definitions of that.
Okay.
And then, of
So,
course, we gotta keep in line with the tourism mandate, you know, by the state, you know, that we're following those guidelines too. But we should be able to should be able to find a way, you know, and we can all think about for next work session or something, but we should be able to find a way to broaden out how we can help the local
yeah.
vendors more. And I agree with your initiative. That's something we should try to do.
So, that means I would motion to discuss those parameters and.
During the
pass them
next
out
work
During the
session.
next work session.
Okay.
Correct.
Got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so we'll make
Aye.
sure this gets to Danny on the work session agenda. Okay? Any other, sorry I left that. Did anybody off by accident? Did anybody else have anything want to say with that? Okay, I'm sorry, I might have moved on too quick. Next one was 7B, staffing thoughts, and that's Will.
Yes, I just had some like questions kind of on the direction because I was actually asked by someone like how many current like full time. Just kind of wanted to discuss like the plan, you know, currently because I know currently we have 2 vacant positions. Am I correct on that? The media and the director, correct? And yeah,
Yeah, we
yes.
got under the present, we got 3 open.
3 open positions.
Yeah.
And
Position was posted and that posting ended last Friday.
okay,
Friday. And then also the media manager position is open. It has not been posted yet, I don't think, for the program.
what's that?
Yes,
Yeah.
no, go ahead if you want to. Yeah. Well, we'll just like take your opinions.
Okay. Okay, so I believe what is happening is, so the deadline for the director position, that was this past Friday. And so they're still in the hiring process of that after they officially hire a director, full-term. Then they'll start posting for these other job positions. Now, in terms of the program manager position, I'm not entirely sure if they will hire a new program manager or if they will rework that job title to fit more job duties than just the programs. That's it. I know that was a discussion at one point. I don't know where that is now, just because everything's kind of up in the air until the director position has been filled.
Okay, and that was just kind of, I was curious if like with the new gallery space over, if we was going to have any full-time staff up there, and just kind of I'd been questioned by someone in town about it, and just kind of wanted a little more clarification on that.
Yeah,
Since
with
we
the
were meeting
gallery
tonight.
space, again, that's until we hire someone officially in that position. That's kind of, but we'll split the part-time staff, and some of the part-time staff will go up to the gallery. At least what Danny had mentioned a couple months ago was that hopefully the hope would be to rotate them, just because we do have frequent flyers at the Welcome Center. So seeing familiar faces when they come in is nice. So just keeping them on rotation. Sometimes they work at the Welcome Center, sometimes they work at the gallery. But who knows? It depends on who gets put in the director position. They might want to just, these people go up to the gallery permanently. These people are at the Welcome Center permanently. It's up in the air on that.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to add to a workshop item to discuss like staffing at our next workshop and kind of see what the plan, just where all the commissioners are on the same page with what's going on with that.
Yeah, so based on your expertise right now, what are the positions?
As far as I know right now, what's in, like, to be, like, what we have.
Well, there's
Okay.
still factual in the budget.
Yeah.
You got director,
Yeah, so director, program manager, media.
Yeah, so director, program manager, media manager, group tour planner, and then the administrative assistant here. So those are the full-time positions.
so currently we got
5.
Plan 6.
Wasn't that 5? Administrative assistant, director, program manager, media manager, and tour bus planner.
You got your event manager, your group tour planner.
Yeah, there
media
used to
manager.
be a position for assistant director, but that was done away with, so there's no assistant director position. So that might be where you're getting 6 from.
And what was Nancy's title when she was?
Operations manager.
Yeah,
Operations.
she was the operation manager, and so that kind of got reworked into what we see Deborah doing today, the administrative assistant.
Okay.
Well, I think we got to revisit, my comments on this, I think we got to revisit the restaurant revenues and hotel revenues for this year. But if they're down, and, which I expect they will be, and we got some of the certainty we're leading into, I think we ought to look in the budget work sessions of limiting that full-time staff to 4 for the next year's budget, is what I think we should consider. Till we get some, again, based on, a lot of it's going to be income-driven.
Yeah.
Can't spend money you don't
Well,
have,
We do need to identify what the dip will be from last year to this year.
if it is a dip.
Yeah.
We have not been given information to know that it is a dip or not a dip. I'm conjecturing there will be a dip.
Boone Tavern's down 400
So
last year.
400 more, 400 less?
more, down,
100,000 were down from last
down.
Yeah, that's the Jackson. I mean, based on,
And from
The
the,
information
from the
we've been-
vendor noise I'm getting, that's everybody's situation, so. That's,
so,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to add that to the agenda for the work session to discuss that and outline that.
okay. And hopefully get information on current
by
budget
then, right,
items.
yeah. Is that a second for Will?
Yeah, I'll second.
All right, third, I'll make a note to send something for Deborah can make sure Danny knows.
We can get that information.
Third item, we're finished there. Does everybody agree? He's opposed. All right, unanimously passes. Sorry, I've gotten 2 likes there. Third item, Donnie, you brought up the trolley once more.
I did. I think.
And you're gonna make a motion once more, we buy a trolley, right?
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, all right. Not buy a trolley?
Not buy a trolley, and let's buy a van and put, we can do that wrap around it. I think this trolley's been going on way before me, but that's just my opinion. We can talk about it. I think the van would be much
I mean,
better for the hotels, honestly.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
There's still been a lot of discussion. So the van, yes, is probably easier and more accessible.
Yeah.
But I wonder what the price difference or the affordability of a non-CDL trolley versus that.
That's what we was pricing, the non-CDL trolley.
From the beginning, it's been that.
Yeah, we immediately, 2 things we decided immediately, my history goes way back with trolleys. 2 things we decided immediately, it'd have to be a non-CDL trolley,
Okay.
and it had to have handicap access.
Gotcha.
There
So
was
that
much
van would
conversation
need
around both of them, and
handicap
it's like,
accessible.
It would still be
we're not
faster.
gonna have one not handicap access, that ain't gonna happen,
Yeah.
you know.
Agreed.
and shouldn't happen. And the other one was, it needed to be non-CDL, which is 15 or 16 or less, in order to, in order to facilitate, make it much easier for us to
Yeah.
logistically handle I agree with Donna's got the expedient answer, but, you know, it's not what the demand is from the vendors or from the citizens and whatnot people's asking for, and it don't have it won't be a draw for anybody, you know, it'll just be a convenience item. But there's definitely a need to move people around once we get them to Berea. You know, that's been an obvious need for 2 or 3 years, and we have all been patching it together, and then we've seen the vendors patch things together. Our business has patched mass transportation together several times, where we would have called on the city or just something partner with the city. But, you know, we've worked with everything and everybody, and I know several other vendors have too, and the hotel has, and it's been a real struggle to get people around once they get here. In subgroups, you know, when they come in, Emily herds them in here 40, 50 at a time, and we don't have a way to segregate them and move them around.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a problem.
Yeah, I agree that the trolley aspect, I think for tourists in, I mean, you have a nice trolley with a nice wrap, it would leave a little more lasting, like, memory of, oh, that was pretty cool. They took us around Berea. They told us some history about it. So I think that side of it, I can see both sides, but then having a van, you could quickly move people around. I can see that too, but I think since it's in budget, I would like to see us continue to explore that option a little more, especially a non-CDL.
Well, I'd like just to quit exploring and do something.
Yeah, I agree. We've had it in the budget.
Van would be fast.
So, I mean, let's buy some.
It wouldn't be fast if we don't execute on it.
Have we checked with any other cities about, I mean, do other cities have vans, or
It didn't work out well in my hometown. The trolley didn't.
the trolley
It was
didn't?
always,
Where's your hotel?
I mean, offhandedly, it seems like, you know, it would be a little easier to park the van than the
Oh,
trolley.
it'd be a lot easier.
oh, and we
you know,
would
store
have it by
that and that
June,
kind of
you know, I
thing,
mean, we
so-
could realistically.
And if you did a wrap, I think it does get
Yeah.
the attention and makes
And
it
it's
look more
cheaper, it would
eye-appealing,
save us
so.
$100,000 to do something else with.
So, I feel like
Sorry,
maybe we
I'm
could investigate that with some other cities and see what they're,
Another thing you could do is get a van now and don't take the trolley off the
temporarily table the trolley.
table it for a year, and
We'll use the trolley as more of like the unique form of transportation, but we still need something that
so
gets
it's not
people
now
around. So,
quick.
yeah. So, I mean, I'd say we need to get something sooner than later. If not, it's gonna be another year.
And we've got a van we need to replace anyway in tourism's fleet. You know, the old aging minivan, so maybe getting a van and still continuing to explore the trolley for future and have both options. If you had a small group staying at Boone Tavern, you know, 6 or 7 people, you could send the
I've got a lot of
van.
people coming.
If you've got a group of 15, maybe send the trolley or, you know, have it on a route. I think having both could be huge for the city as a whole and getting people around. And I think having the audience in, you know, kind of a captive audience that's going to hear about the town and see all the things to do, because I think so many people get off the exit and they miss. There's so much to do here. Whereas if they could take a tour for an hour, see everything here, would be kind of good. I mean, it would be really good. Not really good for the city as a whole.
Well, can I suggest this? This is only a suggestion. Can we decide to get a van? If we do, vote on that today.
Well,
Decide to
you
get
know,
a
I
van.
like to get my way, so.
And then, you know, between now and whenever, determine for sure the description of the van that we want and the schedule we want it on. And so mandate that to happen by a certain date. Because we have wore trolleys out a year at a time for 2 or 3 years. So if we're going to do this,
I think we need something.
we need to mandate that it happens, you know?
Our mayor has a contact. I forgot where you tell me that the contact was, but he has a contact. So we could maybe get some prices and all
By
that.
the end of May, would that be a realistic?
Would that be,
Yeah, prices by the end of May, prices by the end of the week, I'll be realistic.
Oh, that. But I'm saying purchase by
A purchase
May,
by then?
June, July, August will be our most packed season.
Yeah,
for a
so
lot
you
of
need it
people.
now.
Well, it'd be nice to have it for that motorcycle group. They are all staying.
When they here? When they?
What
When
day?
is that?
When's that?
The third week in May, I think.
That's still reasonable.
Might not be wrapped by then, but we should be able, might be, if we can find one somewhere. So
You know,
the budget, a budget up to what are you willing to make a motion for?
I don't know. I
Less
think
than
we need to get some
100,000?
prices back.
But what's,
We need to price it. I have no idea how much that would cost. You know?
so we have to have it in the budget, so you're voting to basically downsize the
I don't think
trolley.
it's gonna cost
I think you have, Bill, if you don't mind, I think you have it covered in
trolley.
your budget with the trolley budget
Yeah, you just
already.
you vote to utilize the trolley budget to do it.
And if it meets with the approval of the commission, I'll get with Sean and some of our folks that know the auto industry a little bit better than I do and see if we can't get a price, identify them and see what the price ranges are. And, but from my perspective, if that's the pleasure of the commission and Sean and Danny are in agreement and everybody's in agreement, we can go ahead and move on it because it's budgeted already.
Yeah.
So, and I do think, from my personal perspective, I think that's wise, see what kind of use you get out of the van. And if you get more use and we need something bigger or grander, then at least haven't laid out that money up front. You can lay that money out later. So
New Sprinter
we
vans
can do that if that's with your all's approval.
Yeah, I think, Don, why don't you make a motion to utilize the trolley, basically buy a downsized trolley in the form of a van.
I make a motion to downsize the trolley to a van.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed? Passes unanimously. Oh, and we will try to do this now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner,
But use it for the 2024 budget.
right.
Correct.
Any other thing else? Commissioner comments? Does anybody have any comments?
Good
They wanna
job,
make-
everybody. I wanted to also reach out to the people of tourism, the ladies. We are having our Summerfest at the Pinnacles on May 17th. Last year, you all had a booth and a calendar, just something very simple that at least lays out a lot of the events. You don't necessarily have to do a table. It'd be great to have you all, but we would love to have that handout again for our info table. A lot of people appreciated that, so. May 17th, 10 to 4. Yeah.
Do you need help with that, Alex?
Not necessarily any helps, but we're open to anybody that wants to set up booths, tables for demonstrations, examples. It's a free event. Nothing's being sold. It's just essentially kind of an educational, informative event with live music and entertainment. So if you can find a way, if you feel like you all would be a good fit, just reach out. It's turned out to be a good event last year, and we've got a couple hundred interested currently so far. So.
Thank you, ladies, for picking up all the slack in the office with all the absences and all that. Do we have a work session planned, or we just,
Well, I think there's yeah, we need to plan a work session because there's a budget scheduled May the 7th. And I think we're supposed to have work session, second work session by now, as it was on somebody's schedule, and it obviously didn't happen. But,
so maybe we get together on some dates and then check with them and see if those dates work?
yeah.
Okay. So let me back up here. If the director's position deadline was last Friday, is there a deadline to fill that position? Or do we have okay. Okay.
Answer your questions? Okay.
How many candidates do we have? Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Probably.
I just want to say great job, Deborah and Emily, picking up the reports there and thing. And I said it last time, I'm a fan of these tabs you've added to the reports. Makes it a whole lot easier there.
The teacher in me
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, great job today on all the reports.
You did a great job.
All right. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
The second.
Second.
Any opposed? This meeting of April 9th, 2025 is hereby adjourned. Thank you for your attendance.